Hey guys, Jordan here. In this video, I'm gonna be answering a real estate photography question, so let's get into it. All right, so today's question is, what ISO setting is recommended when it is extremely bright outside? Now, in general, the lower the ISO setting, the better, especially when you're shooting ambient, like in the middle of the day with bright blue skies, or when you have a lot of light, right? Like super sunny stuff. Some cameras these days will have will go all the way down to ISO 50, like the new A7 IVs that we're shooting with. Before that, we typically, actually the A7 IIIs as well could shoot pretty low, but recently did some testing, and there is a difference between ISO 50 and ISO 100. You can check out that video as well. The recommended ISO setting for when it's super bright outside is as low as possible. Typically, in photography, unless you're going for a grainy look or you want a specific style, you're always gonna want the lowest ISO, because that's typically gonna give you a cleaner image in most scenarios. There are some cameras with dual native ISO, and there are certain ranges where when you go up in ISO, it actually cleans it up. Like actually the A7 III, the camera that I'm shooting on, has a dual ISO. So there are some variables like that to consider, but in general, the lower the ISO setting, the better. If you're shooting on the inside of property with flash, when you have a lower ISO setting, you're gonna get less oomph out of your flashes. So it's almost the same effect as a larger or a smaller aperture setting with how much light is gonna be introduced on the image. ISO has a similar effect, but typically you're gonna have more flexibility and a cleaner image at a lower ISO setting when you have to pull in details from those super bright skies or in the dark shadows next to bushes and stuff on exterior photos. Now in general, ISO 100, for my liking, ISO 100 to ISO 400 is pretty easy to work with on the editing side of things. But if you're having to go really deep, say your camera was messed up on settings and you're having to, maybe you were trying to get a 0 and it shot at exposure value -3, so you're having to push your exposure really hard, and then you're gonna have to push even harder into the shadows. That's where you're really gonna notice a difference and notice the cleaner image between a lower ISO versus a higher one. But if you start pushing ISO super high, in my opinion, anything over 1600, man, it starts to get really noisy with most cameras. And so you don't have too much flexibility to push shadows and highlights and get a clean image. So anyways, those are my recommendations for ISO settings when it's super bright outside. If you got value out of this video, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel as we consistently put out real estate photography content just like this. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one.